Okay, that's it. Yes, here I am. Hello, everybody.
All right, hello. There we are. We are already recording for the ones that cannot make it. So, well, myself, Laura, you know me. This is our second time together. And of course, we've been interacting a lot through emails, Google Classroom, and Google+. And then, you know, some of Paula as well. She's been very active on Google+. So let's go ahead and start. Today, we will talk about authentic assessment on PBL. But before we do that, let's recap a little bit on the things that we have been doing already. I know that you guys have been all very, very busy working on this. Week one, we work on cooperative environments, and we learned what Stephen Keegan says, that when we know structures and we apply those in the classroom, we can make any lesson a cooperative lesson learning. So Paula shared on Google Plus at the beginning of week one a technique that she have done with her students, which was called pencil to the center. So Paula, if you would like to share with the participants again what that activity was and what you did with the students. Go ahead, please.
Yes, absolutely. Well, as Laura said, the activity is called Pencils to the Center. And, well, it is based on one of Kagan's structures. And we use it at school to generate a collaborative atmosphere in the classroom. It goes like this. First of all, you select either a text, a segment of a movie, a documentary, it can be a listening activity or lecture. The important thing is that it should be controversial. I mean, it should generate, yes, a curiosity in your students. Your students should be willing to know, yes, what it is about. And apart from selecting this material, you also create a questionnaire with a few questions, no more than 5, I suppose, yes? Let's imagine that your material is about environmental problems, and the documentary or the text talks about or describes different environmental problems our world is facing nowadays. So you give the students 5 minutes. Well, first of all, you create groups of 3. Yes, can be 3 or 4. Normally 3 is better. Students sit, yes, in groups of 3, and you give each of them the same material and the same questionnaire. You give them 5 minutes, so they get familiar with the text or the documentary. And after that, you tell them that they will have a minute, yes, each of them will have a minute to talk about the different questions. So let's suppose that the first question is, talk about, yes, or yes, what do you think, or what environmental problems do you think have a major impact on our country? So they have just seen the documentary in which environmental problems are described. So for a minute, each of them will talk about this question, will answer the question. So you clap your hands, and the first student in each group starts talking. And the other 2 students need to listen to him. They can't, him or her, they can't interrupt their partners. So at that moment, they put their pencils in the center, yes, in the middle of the table, because they are not supposed to write. This is a moment to speak and to listen to. So once, yes, a minute has passed, you clap your hands again, and they take turns. The second student answers the same question. And now the other 2, the one who has previously spoken as well, need to listen. And you do the same, yes. If they are 3 students per group, you clap your hands every 1 minute 3 times. Once the 3 of them, yes, have talked, you tell them that now they've got 3 minutes, 5 minutes, it depends, to write their answer. So they grab their pencils, and now it's moment to write. This activity is really enriching because I mean, apart from practicing language skills, yes, you also work on respectful listening. They can't interrupt, they need to listen. And then it's great how you can see how their point of view has changed. I mean, when they give their answer, yes, because you're monitoring, you get to listen to what they think. And then when you read, yes, what they write after they have listened to their partners, many times they have reflected, yes, on their previous thoughts. And well, they have changed their point of view or they have expanded. And it's also very good because they have to talk. Because if they don't talk, yes, the silence will show that someone is not talking. I mean, the three of them are looking at each other. So the activity, in a way, forces them in a friendly way to speak. I don't know, Laura, if you want to add something to the explanation.
I think that was great, Paula. Thank you. What you can see here, one of the questions that we were getting from you participants at the beginning of week 1 was how to make everyone participate. And I think that this structure is very helpful, not only to promote cooperation among students, but also to make all of them participate. So thank you, Paula, for sharing. You can read more of these structures on Google Classroom. You have many of them. I've been browsing some of your final projects, and I've seen some of them in there. So I see that you guys are reading the material that we are posting. Moving forward on week 2, we talked about background planning, and we start planning the first draft of the project. We thought of the objectives, some of the entry events, final products, and then you guys gave each other feedback, which it was fantastic to see how much you were interacting with each other. I hope that you found those very helpful for the next step, which is what we are doing right now, which is designing the final project with all the different stages taken into account, not only the objectives, but also the inquiry stage and how we are going to help the students produce what we are asking them to do through the project. Pretty soon, when that is finished, then there will be an instance of peer feedback with check your emails, because pretty soon you will see that coming up. So moving forward, as we said, today we will focus mainly on assessment, on PBL. And one of the things that we need to start talking about is after we set those objectives, remember that we've been talking about background planning, thinking about what we want our students to do. This can be a presentation that can go from a simple, very short, rehearsed introduction of a topic for A1 levels to a prepared presentation for B1 level, to a spontaneous presentation that maybe a C2 level student can do. What's important here is to understand how the same activity, which is a presentation, can be done at the different levels of English, and what to look for on each student, as we know what they can do and what they cannot do. So that introduces to authentic assessment. I'm sure that all of you have been reading already some of the things we have posted on our site. Sorry about that, I'm having some technical issues. Give me 1 minute and I can get this going. I cannot see, there we go. I wasn't able to see the slide. Again, going back to authentic assessment, this is something that we need to start thinking when we plan our project. As I said, once we know the objectives, then we need to know how we are going to assess our students. This assessment is something that we do ongoing. It is through the project that we assess the students, and we use this assessment as a tool to make changes as the project is going. As it says here, we we know this. Authentic assessment, it is more difficult to do than conventional testing because it's something that it's not a one-fit-all type of test, and as a standardized test might be, but it is something that we need to develop according to the project, according to the context, according to the students, according to the goals that we want to achieve. So it's very important that you guys can understand the difference between authentic and traditional assessment. Traditional assessment is what we are used to do in the classroom, which is usually at the end of a touch unit, which is ask the student to sit down for some sort of testing. So it happens at one point, and it's usually at the end of the unit. Authentic assessment happens as ongoing. It is through the process. It is for learning. It is a teaching tool rather than an assessment of the learning, which is the product oriented. So now we're going to give the floor to Paula. Paula, it's going to talk about one of her experiences in the classroom. It's the portfolio experience in PBL. So Paula, if you can open your mic and we'll give you the floor. Thank you.
Okay, it's me again. Okay, well, as we know, the portfolio is one of the tools we use at school. In fact, I'm going to talk about a project we worked on last year. It's something we work with Maria Lascaris. She's here. Hello, Maria. Very nice to have you here. A portfolio is basically a collection, yes, of pictures, photographs, graphs, documents that you gather together and use as examples of the work you have done. The good thing is that school, you can ask, yes, your students to work on different kinds of portfolios. It can be an artistic portfolio, it can be an academic one, it can be a digital one if you got cutting-edge technology. Let me tell you how we do it at school. The first thing we do when we present a new project is to ask students to think of 3 objectives they want to achieve by the end of the project. Personal objectives. For example, goals such as, I want to improve my reading skills, or I would like to learn to be more patient. I would love to feel more confident when speaking in front of an audience. I want to expand my range of vocabulary, or simply I would like to improve my relationship with the other members of the team. Once they have decided on their aims, and it's very important that they have clear aims, they write them down and include them in the portfolio. So that would be the first page, yes, that is included in the portfolio. So they can check from time to time or at any time they want how close they are to accomplish, yes, these objectives. We also tell them to be really responsible and careful with all the material we work with, all the reading activities, the listening activities, the writings, the different drafts, yes, till they get to the final version of their writings, or the listening task, all the material we work with in class should be included in the portfolio. Because we remind them that a complete portfolio is one of the requirements for passing the course. So they know from the very beginning that this is one of the tools we will be using to assess their work in the project. Next slide, Laura, please. Okay, good. After finishing each stage of the project, that is to say, after the presentation stage, after the inquiry stage, and so on, they are asked to write a paragraph expressing the way they feel towards the project, the way they feel towards teamwork, and the way they also feel about their own learning process. In this text, they are asked to reflect also on how close they are to reach the goals they set at the beginning of the project. To do so, we give them some guiding questions because it's very difficult for them, if not, yes, to develop this paragraph. So, okay, sorry, I skipped one part. Okay, well, let's talk about the guiding questions first. These are the guiding questions I used yes, in the project I was telling you about when I started talking. So as you can see, yes, they are connected to their process, to their learning process, and to the way they feel. So let's read the questions, yes? What have you been doing? This way they think, yes, okay, what have we done? What activities? What topics, yes, have I been learning about? How do you feel about it? How do you feel about the activities? How do you feel about the project? Have you enjoyed activities? What have you learned? Regarding cooperative work, give one specific example of something you learned from the team that you probably wouldn't have learned working alone. Give one specific example of something the other team members learned from you that they probably would not have learned otherwise. Suggest at least one change the team could make to improve its performance on the project. Is there anything you would do differently? And I forgot to add here, yes, one very essential question. Go back to the objectives. Go back to the objectives you wrote at the beginning of the project. How close do you think you are to accomplish them? So, disorganize the paragraph. You should give them some time, yes, in class, yes, to think about this. Yes, they take time. But it's very important that they do it after each phase because it gives you the opportunity to make changes. And it gives them the opportunity to make changes. As one of the questions is, suggest at least one change the team could make, yes, to improve its performance. Well, once, yes, they have given you, yes, these paragraphs, you take them home, or if you have, yes, hours at school, you read them at school, and you read very carefully, yes, what they have thought of, and you organize one-to-one interviews. It takes time, but believe me, it is worth it. And yes, while you are having the one-to-one interviews, it's good to have some other activities so the rest of the class, yes, is working. And you talk, yes, with them about their production, about, well, why they feel this way, what you can do, yes, to tackle the difficulties they have spotted. You can develop strategies they can implement to meet their objective, yes? And this is also a very good opportunity to give them sentence frames. Do you remember that Laura last online session, yes, mentioned these sentence frames which help you scaffold, yes, their learning. And these sentence frames, yes, you can tell them, yes, regarding the different difficulties they are dealing with. Yes, you give them sentence frames to help them put language into practice. Well, let me go back. I need the next slide. As I was saying, yes, the portfolio allows us to scaffold the project process. So every time we move, yes, stages, students can reflect on what they have already done and learned. And they know where we're heading next and what we expect from them. This way, they can plan their work easily and more effectively. And as I said before, yes, the portfolio also gives us the chance to get to know if there are any changes we teachers need to introduce to the project. The next slide, Laura, please. Thank you. Creating, yes, getting creative. At the end of the project, yes, students make their own portfolio. In this particular case I'm telling you about, we work with creative, yes, or traditional portfolios. Most of the students feel very excited about designing and producing really nice portfolios. And believe me, yes, I work with 15-year-old students and they do get enthusiastic about it. And well, it's totally understandable. After all the hard work they have done, they want to create a nice case for their production. It's like, okay, I'm proud of this. And they also like the fact that by going backwards and forwards, they can evaluate their own work and process. Here, we include a final rubric where they assess the whole project and their individual and group work. Here they've got different questions, yes, to follow and to answer. which are about the whole process. Believe me, reading about your students' thoughts, likes, suggestions, criticisms as well, at least from my point of view, personally, is one of the most enriching experiences I can have as a teacher. And it gives me the opportunity to rethink about my daily work. I don't know, Laura, is there anything else you would like me to add?
I am not sure. I think that you've been very descriptive of the experience. So then we are going to open the mic to the participants. But so then if they have questions, they can ask them to you. Now, before we do that, let's just go a little bit over a rubric. A rubric, it's a great tool for teachers to assess their students, because it is a simple way to set up a grading criteria for assignments. Usually a rubric, it's what we give the students at the beginning of the project, so then they know exactly what they need to do, what is it that we expect for them at the time of getting a grade. I'm gonna pause the sharing my computer screen for a minute, because when I had that technical problem at the beginning, I lost the site, so I'm going to go back to it. So it will take just one second, but I'm going to show you a platform that is called Rubistar, which is a platform to create rubrics for your students. So I will stop sharing, but I will continue talking, so then I will get to my my computer. That site really helps you because it has some pre-made rubrics that you can use with your students. Give me 1 minute here and I will share so you can see what I'm talking about. There it is. Okay, I think that everybody can see, right? Nod or something, or tell me that you can see the site. It's called Rubistar. Let's see, there's a chat here. Hopefully I'm getting tons of yes. Okay, there we go. Super, so then we can move forward. Paula, nod, you can see Rubistar page, right? Can you see it?
Yes, okay. I do.
Super. So if you can see it, everybody can. You can see that down here when it says create a rubric. Let's say that you are planning with your students some oral presentation. So you will hit on oral presentation. Let's say that it is a storytelling type of project. You can also create your own with this site, but there's a lot of pre-made rubrics that you can pick and choose. So let's say that is a storytelling project you are doing with your students. You write your name. You see, I've been working with this already, so it's all there. The name of your project, let's say The Greatest Book. The zip code, this is done by the US Department of Education, but you can access it from abroad using the 9999, there it is, code, which it says here, that will give you access to the platform. And then you can go ahead and choose the different criteria. So let's say that you are going to talk about the characters. How are the characters presented and worked on this particular presentation? So there, it already gives you the graded criteria. It's hard to tell who the main character is. So the graded thing, which is the main characters are named, they're clearly described, and so on and so forth. Now, you can not only choose the pre-made criteria there, but you can also type up your own. Let's say that you worked on pronunciation, assimilation of different sounds. So then you can write here the graded criteria to clearly demonstrated. Oops. To working on it yet. So you'll go ahead and you can choose as many criteria as you would like to include in that rubric. And you see that there's many you can choose. You hit submit, and that will give you your rubric. And then you can print or download on your computer to print up on a later time. So this is a very helpful tool because rubrics are not an easy task to accomplish. Probably it is another EVO session on how to go about with rubrics. But with this site, you can do them very, very easily. So let me share again the slides. There we are. And probably it will be time to open up the mics for any questions you might have. You've been very active, so there might be questions for us, either for Paula or for what is happening in the project. If you want to open up your mic, or if you want to type up questions, you can go ahead and we'll be glad to answer them.
Hello.
Hello.
I have a question. How are you?
Maria, hi.
Hello.
Thank you for hosting this. We're so excited to be part of this. This is really a great learning experience for me and for everyone, I think. But I have a question about the one-to-one interview that you have with students. So oftentimes, my colleagues and I have shared this, this type of self-reflection that students take part in. My colleagues believe it's better to be done in the L1, their first language, than the L2. And I tend to think, no, our goal is to really get them thinking in their second language and using their second language. And oftentimes the reflection piece, the I can statements or can do statements, they tend to do in their first language. And I don't agree with that, but I'm curious how it sounded like you conduct this in their second language, yes?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We do this in English. Yes, in their
Okay.
second language. I only, well, of course, there are cases in which you need to, but the only case in which I let them go to language one easily is when there is a problem that really affects them. Yes, when it is, and so they need their mother tongue. But if not, I always tell them to make the effort to do what they can. Yes, and even if they have very little, yes, English, in this case, their second language, they can do it. They can talk about their feelings and about the way they are doing it. Of course, yes, an A1 student will not talk the same way as a C1, yes, but they can do it. What do you think, Laura, about it?
Exactly. I mean, exactly that. And that's why, through the course, we keep insisting on this sentence frame. I mean, give your students the language they need to communicate. It might be a very simple discussion. I mean, it might be, did you like this project or did you not? But that really empowers the students to use the language. And believe me, they feel really excited about it. So yes, we'll do it in English in our case. Yep.
Right. I agree with you. And this is where within our department, we don't always share the same philosophy, but of course in my classroom, I'll conduct what I think is best. But and every teacher varies from classroom to classroom. We have that flexibility, luckily.
That's right.
And in order to what Laura has just said, maybe what you can do and what you can tell your colleagues to do is to give them, yes, before the one-to-one interview, give them, yes, sentence frames, give them a list of expressions, yes, that can help them express their feelings. Very simply, from very simple to complex ones, yes. So they've got that piece of paper, yes, in order to help them express their feelings. and their ideas.
Mm-hmm. Not only that, but also, I will add to what Paula said, give them time, give them those questions ahead of time, maybe 2 or 3 days before that one-on-one feedback with you or the teacher, so then they can really reflect on what they're going to say and how they are going to say that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Is there any other question for us? Any other participant that would like to ask a question to us?
Maybe I can try. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, happy to be here. Yeah, and so I'm so really thankful for all your materials provided, because it's pretty useful. But I'm a little bit lack of time. That's why I try to cope with everything a little behind the schedule. Anyway, I'm interested in, since I'm teaching online and in the mode is one-to-one, we have some special platform already in our school online, and I'm interested how I can tailor that to my students, because as a rule it's not the class right now. Yes, it's only one student in front of me, in front of the monitor, and sometimes they have different levels. For example, it can be beginners, false beginners, and so on and so forth, and sometimes they can be truly advanced. So it's really okay with advanced students, it can be really pretty interesting and easy yet to provide this approach, but with beginners it can be a little bit hard. So perhaps you have some special recommendations concerning one-to-one approach, one-to-one mode, not for the class itself.
I mean, usually what we do, it's, open up the classroom part of PBL. It's also opening to what is happening in the community, maybe, or even in the world. So, I don't know if that's a possibility for you, but what I'm thinking, it's opening your classes to other platforms. There are many later on. I already wrote your name down. I can email you a few safe websites that maybe you can work with to have your students interacting with others, because interaction it is important. So maybe that will help you. I don't know, Paula, if you have any other suggestions. That's what I'm thinking.
Yes, I was thinking of the same. I was thinking that maybe you can have an exchange program, and that very, one student you've got, make him, he or her interact with another student. And this thing about the rubrics and the reflection on their work can be done, when you only have one student. Maybe you don't need the rubric, or maybe you do, but you can, every month or every 15 days, you can talk to your student to make him, I'm thinking while I'm talking, and I think that the rubric, is worth it, because you give him or her the possibility to think, about his or her learning process. So you give him a rubric, as homework, maybe, and next class you talk about the way he or she feels, that is a great point in PBL, and I think that if you
some kind of reflection.
Exactly. The same reflection we do, in class, you can do it in your one-to-one class.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Sure.
And you can also have a final product. Because you can have a final product when
It's also a great way actually to give feedback and assess and just reflect. So reflection is our everything. Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For tracking progress and just understanding where we are now and where we're moving.
Exactly.
Definitely. And then later on, I'll be sending you that email with those resources that maybe you might find helpful.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Sure. Anybody else with questions for us? Anything?
Hi, I have a question.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, how is everyone? A really good session today. Really interesting. Basically, the question is about the portfolio, the written portfolio. I can understand in in PBL where we get students to collect material, articles on a given topic. Like one of the projects I'm trying to design, the last couple of 2 weeks, so say, is about environmental issues, and I've been trying to make it more specific. But I can understand that they're going to find articles where they can put into their writing, into their portfolio, maybe the sources where they got their information from. What about when it comes to what other material can go into the portfolio, basically, is the question.
Well, I'm sure that as you are teaching, yes, English as a second language, you also have listening activities, yes, which they have to, yes, fill in, so that is included. I'm sure that probably you will include written production, so you include all the drafts with the final version, so they see the process. You include these rubrics and these reflections. You include everything you do in class, every little thing. If you give them sentence frames, that should be included as well.
Photograph. At one time, I did a project with my students in where they had to take photographs, so we included that. And we work. Maybe it's a little too much information to share, but to make it more effective, work with QR codes. Have the students create QR codes, so then they don't have to print out tons and tons of pages. The QR code, it's there, accessible for them, especially for reading that they might do online.
Great, that totally opened up the idea of portfolios now. Super. It was perfect. I loved it. Yeah.
And
word maps, worksheets, everything.
Yes, and I saw that one of your questions was if it was digital portfolios or paper ones. Both. I mean, the one you think will be more profitable for your students. In my case, we tend to make paper ones, yes, but I have also worked with digital ones, and if you have the opportunity to make them work, yes, on computers, that's great too.
Yes, and Paula, for example, our exchange, when we had our students working together, the students had 5 different topics, and so that was a digital portfolio, in essence, of what they discussed online. There were videos, there were written, what you shared recently, the example of what I think the one you shared was the topic on talk a little bit about your area.
Right.
And although this wasn't problem solving and really taking on an issue, they were practicing communicating and sharing. Dr. Canderis, in your situation, if you're doing a debate in the portfolio, you could include perhaps things like if each student is taking, and I'll share these materials as well, but if each student is taking on a different role, one student perhaps will make an opening statement, other students will be making rebuttals, and other student may be making a closing statement. Each student has his or her responsibility, and those kinds of things will go into each one's portfolio. I think the same issue that comes up over and over again is time, right? And the first time around you do something like this, it feels very cumbersome, very overwhelming. But if you do it once, like anything, after that, it does get a little easier.
That's right.
Yes, absolutely.
And let me add to Paula and Maria's project, because I overseen that project. They worked on Google accounts, on Google Docs, so they were able to give immediate feedback to the student, which is also saved there. So that's a good way to give feedback to the students as well, and it's there for them to see.
Yes, it was a wonderful project. I have included, yes, some examples for you to have a look at. They love, yes, getting in touch, yes, with students from around the world. And I think, Maria, they have problem solving activities because they had to think about how to communicate, yes, with someone who was across, yes, across the Atlantic, yes, who was, I mean, in a different place with a different culture, with a different language. So they needed, yes, to think about those things. So I think that they had to solve some problems. So well,
Yeah.
that is also included, yes, in the portfolio. As
Right,
Maria
part
said,
of
in
the
this
process.
case,
It
yes.
wasn't necessarily the talking point, but it's absolutely part of the process. No, I
Mhm.
agree.
All right. Any other question? Any other participant that would like to share or ask a question to us? Okay. So we move on. We are almost about to finish. Week 4, which will open next week. The task is to design an assessment tool. So check your emails because we will be emailing you the templates that you will work on to design your assessment tools. We know that it's a lot of work because this is something that you need to design according to your project. It's not something that you can browse on the website and grab and post. So being that said, this is a friendly reminder because I already had some students, some participants that have been emailing me regarding time. Week 5 is like a blackout week. It is a week in where we give you time to really catch up with all the things that you have to do. The only task that it is planned for week 5 is a live session like this one to share experiences, to share if any of you had to try the project that you are planning, share how it went, share doubts. I mean, it is the final roundup webinar we are going to have together. So it's not anything particular that you have to do on week 5. So basically now we have 2 weeks ahead to finish up our projects, to give each other feedback, and to plan the assessment. Let's see, I have here on the chat. No, that's not a question. I just wanted to make sure that they were not more questions. I think that you guys are doing wonderfully. You're really working very, very hard. It's been a pleasure to look at your projects and see what you are planning for your students. And as I said, there will be 2 weeks that you have now to accomplish and to finish all the tasks to be able to finish up the course and receive the certificate. So if there's no more questions, let's see, there's a chat. No, great. Just nice comments, which is very nice to see. So we thank you for your time. We will be posting this session online as well if you want to go back to it. And Paula, if you would like to say your goodbyes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you for making the time to be here with us. And I mean, reading you has been wonderful. Yes, you've got great ideas. So we are also learning a lot from you. Thank you very much.
That is right. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you all online. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.